fun little box. Takes me back to the first Golf GTI I drove way back in the day. This is what it felt like. The world is full of affordable cars with kind of gray and white personalities. And the Golf has always been different. No variant more saturated than this guy, the Golf R. Now, it's not a car for everyone. It's high in price and low in production volume, but it cast an important halo over the entire Volkswagen line with its road-going prowess. Spotting one is surprisingly tricky. You'll see some very small, subtle R badges around the side flanks and the rear. It's got some different functional air scoops around the sides of the chin, a little different set of wheels and body kit, but overall, it's not a car that shouts, "Look what my owner bought." It instead says rather confidently, "Look what I can do." Now, right off the bat, I've always liked these VW cabins, and I still do. They're clean, they're kind of classic. The quality of materials in here remains really good. As for this head unit, this is the best argument for using a smartphone. Luckily, there's not much of it. It is touch-based, and it's got some very crude pinch, zoom, and swipe that is barely responsive. They did waste time on things like proximity sensing, so ribbons of buttons come and go, which doesn't really get me anywhere. They should have put that effort and that investment into things like much faster voice command.
Please say a country or a state first.
California. Sometimes it even starts by asking me what country I want to drive to. You have no modern infotainment applications or anything like that. AM, FM, HD, satellite. You've got this pigtail device there, MDI, that they use, which is really horrible. You've got to buy specialized cables and don't lose them. The overall interface, display quality, and clunkiness of the voice command system on here is dreadful. That, of course, is not the point of buying a Golf R. So let's get on to our drive controls. Here is your current one-choice-only gear shift, which is your DSG shift lever. You click through 4 drive modes. Each one ups the aggression of the shifting and the powertrain. That includes our adaptive suspension, which is optional on this car, our electric steering assist level, our engine power onrush. Now, in here is a big part of where you're spending that extra 14 grand or so over a GTI. 2-liter turbocharged, direct injected 4-cylinder sitting side saddle. That may sound like a story you've heard before, but this one's more uptight than the other ones. We're getting some real power here. 292 horse, 280 pound-feet of torque. Vehicle weighs 3,300 pounds, gets up to 60 in just under 5 seconds, but still delivering 2330 mpg, though it wants those mpg to be done on the backs of premium gallons. Now, behind that engine is one drivetrain right now. All-wheel drive in a sporting fashion with a Haldex center differential. This is Audi Quattro cousin stuff. And interestingly, you cannot get a manual gearbox on the 15s. You can only get a 6-speed dual clutch, or DSG as VW calls them. In 2016, that'll be joined by a 6-speed manual option that'll reduce the cost by $1,000 or so, as well as bringing you some purity of purpose. Now, the first thing I notice in our Golf R is that, let's face it, a 2-liter inline-4 with a turbo is always going to feel like a 2-liter inline-4 with a turbo. You can get buried under a lack of boost or too tall a gear pretty easily. So it's a car you got to stay involved in, but that doesn't bother me because that's why you bought an R. Got a whole mess of power coming on here right when I need it, as long as I keep the revs up and keep that turbo spooled. Now, we have that DCC adaptive suspension. I haven't done an A/B against the dead steel version, but this car does not suffer from any understeer. You point it and it kicks right in that way. I love the sound this car makes, but turns out what I'm hearing isn't necessarily just the engine. There's something up in the cowl at the base of the windshield, an electronic device called the Sound Actor, which resonates a synthetic growl up through the bottom of the glass, apparently. A lot of folks get in there and unplug it. I gotta say, it's kind of unseemly for one of the last great honest driving cars, so I'm sad they put it there, but maybe the engine doesn't sound very good. Now, I know many of you rue the fact we don't yet have a manual gearbox in this vehicle, but I can tell you this is a super snappy, sharp, and quick DSG. It's got pretty good around-town manners, with the exception of getting caught flat-footed sometimes in automatic mode. However, I'd still like to have that third pedal just to really get in touch with the simple but brawny honesty of this car, just a little better. And despite our 19s and our low-profile tires, ride quality is really good. You will have no problem in everyday driving with your R. Since the last Golf R, we've picked up 36 horsepower and 3 mpg highway, plus some torque. Let's price out our little Rorty red friend. Now, a Golf R starts a little bit over $37,000 with destination, and by the time you add the adaptive suspension and nav package, that's one line item like we have, you're at about 40 grand. Here's what I'm going to do though. I want purity in this to really honor its golf roots, but also enjoy its special hardware. I'm going to take out the adaptive suspension and nav package. I'm also going to wait till 2016 and buy the next generation that has a 6-speed manual. That takes $1,100 off the price, and now I'm just over 36. This is not a Golf for everyone. In fact, you don't need my opinion to tell you to buy one. You've already made up your mind. But what this car really does show is that Volkswagen, as much or more than any other car maker, knows how to extend a line without blurring it. More cars driven CNET style. Standing by now at cnetoncars.com. Click on the road.